Hey cookie creators and lovers alike, I'm Gabby. After 4 years of waiting, it's time to cheer on your country again. Today on the Cool Cookie Show, we're making some Olympic themed cookies. For my Olympic rings, I'm going to start by flooding the entire base of the cookie in white. For my piping consistency icing, I'll be using a number 1 Ateco tip. And for my 15-second consistency flooding icing, I'll be using my number 3 Wilton tip. Now we'll let this layer dry for 6 to 12 hours before we go in and start adding the rings. After the first layer of flooding was dry on this cookie, I took the image of the Olympic rings that I found on the internet, placed it into my projector, and traced out the image on the cookie. This will give the guidelines I need to make my piping as accurate as possible. I'm going to let these 2 rings dry for 20 minutes to an hour before I go in and flood the other 3. With the Olympic rings all done, let the games begin. For my gold medal, I'm going to start by flooding it with a light brown color, and after it dries, I'll brush on some luster dust. For my piping consistency icing, I'll be using a number 1 Ateco tip, and for my 15-second consistency flooding icing, I'll be using a number 3 Wilton tip. Now I'll let this flooding dry for 6 to 12 hours before I go and add some piping detail and some luster dust. Now I'll let this cookie dry for 6 to 12 hours before I go in and brush gold luster dust all over it. After my gold medal has fully dried, I'm going to go in with some gold luster dust and a food safe brush to give it a shine. You want to add some vodka or another clear alcohol to the luster dust to give it a paint-like consistency. Don't worry about the alcohol content though, as it will evaporate as the cookie dries. Now I'll let this gold medal dry for 10 to 15 minutes before I attach a strap made of candy. For the strap on my gold medal, I'll be using a sour rainbow belt candy. You could use licorice or anything of the same shape as long as it's pliable and preferably edible. This gold medal's all done and ready for the champion. For my Olympic torch, I found a photo that I liked online. I printed it out, cut it out, and then placed it on top of my cookie dough and cut around it with a sharp knife. After baking the cookie, I then took this image and placed it inside my projector to outline the cookie where I should be piping using food coloring marker. For the torch, I'm going to start by flooding the staff in a light brown. For my piping consistency icing, I'll be using a number 1 Ateco tip, and for my 15-second consistency flooding icing, I'll be using a number 3 Wilton tip. Now I'll let this flooding dry for 15 minutes to an hour before I go in and add the flame. Before this flooding dries, I'm going to use my scribe tool to pull the flames together. Now we'll let this flooding dry for 6 to 12 hours before we go and add some more detail. Now that my torch is fully dry, I'm going to go in with some gold luster dust for the base to give it a shine. This torch is all done and ready to light the way. Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of The Cool Cookie Show. If you liked this episode, give it a big thumbs up. Want to be a part of the creativity? Let me know what characters and shapes you'd like to see in the comments below. For more of my cookie creations, check out my channel, tune in every Tuesday, and don't forget to subscribe. Till next time, stay sweet!